This is my favorite part. I always do better unscripted.
Sweet. Okay, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. If anyone here had any questions or anything like that, feel free to stick your hand just to back there in the corner and she'll kind of like, call you. Also chat as well too. You should just let me know if any. Okay, cool. So, first question. So you use a lot of conduits like, in your work, right? So whether it's the fells, the natural world, the movement. So like, so do you get the idea from like looking at the material or, like doing a specific movement? Or does the story come first?
Oh, okay, so it's definitely the material for me. Like I'll see something and I'll just be like, oh, what is this? And I often, on one hand, it's very intuitive, but I think that intuition is also coming from a lot of experience, having seen materials and working with materials over the years, and I'm curious how to use it. So it's often how does it like take a stitch or a chair? So it's really about the materials when I start with it, and I often will make these mashups. Like when I made the jingle bits, I had no idea what I would like. I'm like, what I do? It just was kind of happening, and I wasn't clear with how I would wear them or perform in them. That comes later. So the story, in that sense, the story would then come together later. And in a way, I like to imagine that I have this incredible like shelf of objects, and for the performance, I'm like, what will I wear this time? And I go, okay. I mean, that's kind of what I imagine. That's not really how it happens. Usually, something an opportunity will come up, and then I'll say, okay, what do I want to use? What feels right? What do I want to use? And then I work from there.
So like on your travels, you just like grab a bunch of materials, like, oh, that looks cool. It's donut. One just see the donut.
Sometimes I was eyeing up the donuts. Yeah, I think that, for material, I believe that's how, as artists, we work. Definitely for me, I'll just see something and I'm so curious about it. And with the felt, that was one of the things where I was at the Museum of Art and Design, and they were using it as the backdrop for all their exhibitions. And they said, Maria, do you want a leftover felt? And I was like, okay. So they hooked me up with my supplier, and then as I worked with it, I was like, oh, let me try and make a large format camera replica with felt. Okay, let me try and do that. So it just kept giving, I suppose. The more I discovered it, just loved it.
I also love the fact that it's just like also like a highly practical. So that it's like, is this going to hold stick? And if it's not, like no matter how great material it is,
That's a good question. So I've been working with drama students, but I also remember this other group called the Wajimajig Theater Group at the Manitoulin. And I remember one time they did a performance where they're like, now we're ducks. So they took a baseball cap, like a yellow baseball cap, and put it on their head, and like, now I'm a duck. So I feel like there's a balance, like, so it's really about what you're bringing, and can you convince people and bring them along with you, right? I'm sure Hacker could talk more about that better than me, but as a performance artist, it really is like, with the audience, it's like you have to take them with you. And in many ways, like even today, I'm like, oh, I could come to a performance and be very confident, but coming in and talking, I'm always like, oh.
You did great. Okay, so like having lived in Brooklyn, Toronto, and like also like in Sean all around, how have you seen like place and I guess like absorbing information from each place impact your overall work?
Yeah, okay, well the first thing is, I think I want to say from a small town, but I'm not even from the town. Like I was born at the hospital in the town, but we lived in a township outside of the town. So very like country mouse, small town person, and being like, Toronto! So I feel like in one way I was And I think it's funny how, or not so funny, but when you go somewhere new, it often reminds me of where I'm from, and it adds new insights to to that childhood and what that was like. I'm always comparing. So, for example, I recently went up to Yellowknife, and that place was so trippy because it was summer and the sun did not set. And I'm like, okay, I knew this was the case. I kind of knew, but I was not prepared to be like, now it's bedtime, close the curtain. Now it's morning, open it, and it's just exactly the same. And I felt like it fundamentally shifted something in my body with that. And the other thing is, I felt really comfortable there because there was a lot of rocks, like the Muskokas or Bridge Bay where I'm from. But the trees were different. Trees to me, they all look spooky because they're short and pointy and it's really hairy. And I felt like it was a spooky. So that's why I like going places. Although now I feel like it's a little more exhausting because I'm so curious. But when I would go to somewhere new that lived in Vancouver, I would want to know, well, who lives there? What's this place about? And suddenly I understood why West Coast people wore those big spear hats. I'm like, oh, because it's always raining. Or those, they have the blankets that they wore, the wool blankets. I'm like, oh yeah, I want a wool blanket too, because it's so yeah. So you understand the place through the people. And yeah, that's also how I like to experience a place, is by who lives there.
And you mentioned before, it's like, well, you were prepared. Be prepared. It's so overrated. Sometimes it's just way better to show up.
Just always
absorb,
what's happening?
Truly absorb. Yeah. Any questions from the crowd? Or from Instagram? No? Okay. I will keep doing things. Oh!
Do you have any pieces with you today?
Can
you repeat the question?
Oh,
okay. Do I have any of my pieces with me today? So you're catching me because I was like, should I take something and just use it and that will be part of my talk? So I'm always figuring out how to do my talks, artist talks, or talks in general. Also, I wasn't sure how much is interview, how much is it. So I guess my proposed answer is this is it. Yes, I am. I'm here. But I am not performing, or I don't have my other performance stuff. Although I often wear something like that because it's nice. But I do have a show coming up in September that will have lots of stuff. There's lots of opportunities.
Yeah, I mean that's great. So how can you find out what you work?
Yeah, so I work with 2 galleries. Well, okay, so I have some work up right now with the AGO in special collections. I have this amazing coin coif that you can put on. It's like a coif is what you wear under armor. You have a knight's helmet. So it has coins on it, and it'll have psychologia, and it's crazy, and I love it. I'm on it all the time because I sold it to the AGO. So there's more there that you can literally go see right now. I don't know, I have some upcoming shows and projects. Also, because I'm here in Toronto now, excitingly enough are happening while I'm here and around, so I feel, a lot of magic and relatively strong right now. So there's stuff. Or online. If you Google me, my last name is my first name is very common, and my last name is very uncommon. So you'll find me or someone who's related to me.
How are you for time?
Yeah,
Okay. So, not writing things down. When you said that, and I was like, what? And then I was like, but the whole so not writing things down, based upon ancestral tradition, it says that you're pretty much deeming it to a fate of being forgotten, right? And I think there's something really beautiful about that. It's you have to be a part of the history, and you have to be a part of articulating that story going. So, I mean, that also explains why we barely remember anything in high school. Right. But what about something where it's what if the person may like pass away, like think the knowledge will pass away before they have the opportunity to share it. Like, is there like a medium where you know you can kind of have whatever you mix together?
Yeah, I think, of course. I mean, also we're in a time where I think to operate in that way, there's a way we have to think of that game telephone where I tell you, tell them, by the end, it's become such an approach of what the original message was. But with oral tradition, that is not the case because we're taught to tell it in a very specific way. So that we're actually telling it in a way that was told by their ancestors, and so it becomes this incredible line of continuity where the story doesn't change, the people are changing, right? And so in that way, when we think of that kind of knowledge, that's incredibly powerful about how we can be so connected. A more kind of, in my lifetime, I often think of the movie E.T. So when I was little, I was thinking of Elliot. I was like, oh, that kid running around, that's me. And then when I got older, like a teenager, and I watched it, I'm like, oh, I'm like E.T., I'm in, I'm alien. And then now, you know, growing up, I'm like, that poor mother, right? So we relate in different ways. And I think that's also the pattern and the storytelling is often focuses, and there's lots of people who talk about this in Indigenous literature. I'm preparing to teach a course on Anishinaabe storytelling. But that when you're, now I've lost my train of thought. But when you're embodiing a story, and telling a story, that there's agency. So we hear a story, but what we're doing in Anishinaabe, it's very different than like children's stories. It's actually what you're doing is you're thinking, oh, Nana Bojo did what? To duck? Oh, am I duck? Am I Nana Bojo? So you're in the story, you're literally experiencing. So it's a really good way to kind of go through relations, putting yourself in other situations, thinking through things. So I think that's really important, this idea of non-interference. Not telling people, but letting us figure it out. By sharing the stories, we're able to gain insights for our own life and have our own agency. So yes, I think there's lots of, in this day and time, I know I operate in many different ways. And so as an artist, I definitely, someone who taught drawing, I do practice this one. Like, if you want to know what an oak leaf looks like, you need to draw it. Draw it a couple of times, and then that will remember. Like how I talk about that, like picking with your hands. Like how do you go from something where you're not overthinking it to like embodying it? So yes, I do like things to be and it's a big part of my process.
The embodying these things are just so powerful, right? Like to execute it in so many different ways that you can start feeling it and being one with the word.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible. Also, I'm a writer, so when you like, should write things, I'm like, I guess I have to do audio.
True, right? Taking to like this book, where it's only available on a cat as an audio because she wants you to hear it. So you think differently. You hear things rather than when you're reading it. I have to say I'm a visual learner, so I like to read things. I like to take notes in the margins and all of that as well, but I feel like I am also definitely always balancing. There's also the 7 grade publications. I try and remember them. Sometimes I'm like, I can't remember the 7th one. That's the one I need to work on. Apparently, like, oh, I have to work on humility. Or, oh, I have to work on wisdom. What is the one that? So I think that is another kind of being mindful of all of that. Operating in many different ways.
Right. Perfect. Okay, so one quick thing. So the walk in the ravine, I know this was my last question, sorry. So the walk in the ravine, is that open?
Yeah, so that's open. You can find information about that through Comments Raft, go to their website. We're meeting at a sculpture, a really prominent, it's called Two Shoes. picture that is also, this artist worked a lot with like the idea of movement and activation. So we're starting there, and then we're gonna walk to a bridge that goes nowhere. Which is over the river.
That's